the death that turned Rhaenyra into the Black Queen. Good day, lords and ladies of the realm. You have just stumbled into Westeros' throne, your weekly dose of fire, blood, and savage betrayals. Before we dive headfirst into this storm of grief and vengeance, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a single whisper from the Iron Throne. Because trust me, this story will make you look at Rhaenyra Targaryen not as the queen she was born to be, but the one tragedy forced her to become. Now, everyone remembers Rhaenyra, the proud, ambitious heir to King Viserys, who was supposed to bring peace and strength to House Targaryen. But that dream burned faster than dragon fire on dry hay. The moment her crown was stolen, her throne usurped, and her loved ones torn from her, the realm's delight vanished and the Black Queen was born. But what truly triggered that transformation? One death, cruel, brutal, and deeply personal. The death that cracked her heart and turned it into cold Valyrian steel. Let's rewind a bit. When Viserys, I named Rhaenyra his heir, Westeros collectively gasped like someone had just told them dragons eat children for breakfast. A woman on the Iron Throne? Blasphemy. The court smiled to her face, but behind those velvet curtains, every lord was sharpening a knife. Still, Rhaenyra kept her chin high. She was bold, educated, a dragon rider, and genuinely loved by her father. Her claim was supposed to be untouchable. But power in Westeros is like wildfire, beautiful, dangerous, and quick to spread chaos. The seeds of betrayal were already growing in King's Landing, watered by the cold ambition of Queen Alicent Hightower and her serpent of a father, Otto. Here's where things start to boil. When Viserys died, the Hightowers pulled the dirtiest political trick in the Seven Kingdoms playbook. They hid the king's death and crowned Aegon instead. The Greens had seized the throne before Rhaenyra even knew her father was gone. A usurpation wrapped in silk and deceit. And where was Rhaenyra when this happened? At Dragonstone, pregnant, stressed, and fuming. She hears the news, not from an ally, not from a maester, but from rumors and ravens. Her father dead, her throne stolen, her name smeared. Now imagine being in her shoes. You are carrying a child, your blood pressure is spiking like wildfire, and suddenly the dream your father built for you your entire life is ripped away by the same people you once called family. And this is where tragedy strikes, the death that changed everything. Because the moment Rhaenyra hears that Aegon has been crowned king, her body betrays her. The stress, the rage, the sorrow, it all comes crashing down. She goes into labor, and it is not a natural birth. The baby is stillborn. She names the child Visenya, after the legendary warrior queen of Aegon the Conqueror. But that name was the only gift she could give. Her daughter never drew breath. And that was the spark. The exact moment Rhaenyra Targaryen died, and the Black Queen took her place. Let that sink in. The Greens stole her crown, and the gods took her child, all in the same week. If vengeance had a face, it would have been hers. This loss was more than grief. It was a symbolic death. Visenya's stillbirth represented the death of Rhaenyra's innocence, her faith, and her hope for peace. The woman who once dreamed of ruling justly now dreamed of burning everything to ash. And if you think I'm exaggerating, think again. After Visenya's death, Rhaenyra didn't just mourn, she changed. Her words became colder, her tone sharper, her patience thinner than a Valyrian blade. Even her allies noticed. Daemon Targaryen, her husband and uncle, once said, "You have your father's face, but your mother's fury." He wasn't wrong. Now, some fans argue the real turning point was Luke's death, her son Lucerys Velaryon, who got chomped in half by Aemon's dragon Vhagar like a midday snack. Sure, that was the moment war became inevitable. But by the time Luke fell from the skies, the Black Queen was already forged. Luke's death didn't create her, it unleashed her. Think about it. Rhaenyra's transformation began the moment she held her lifeless daughter in her arms. The Greens had taken her birthright, and the gods had taken her child. That kind of pain doesn't just heal, it mutates. From that point onward, she wasn't fighting for a crown anymore. She was fighting to make them suffer. To make every lord who bent the knee to Aegon taste fear. Her strategy changed, too. She began relying less on diplomacy and more on intimidation. Her council noticed her fury in every decision. She demanded loyalty with a threat behind her eyes. When she finally sat on the Iron Throne, it wasn't as the rightful heir. It was as the avenger of her father, her children, and her destiny. Here's the beautiful irony. Rhaenyra's claim to the throne was built on love and legacy, but her reign was fueled by rage and revenge. The birth of Visenya and her tragic death became the emotional sword she swung through the rest of the war. Let's pause for a second, because this isn't just tragedy for tragedy's sake. This is Shakespearean madness in dragon form. The woman who once symbolized hope for a new Targaryen age became a mirror of her own pain. Now, let's not forget, Daemon Targaryen played his part in this metamorphosis too. He saw Rhaenyra's fury and didn't try to stop it. Oh no, he fed it. He whispered vengeance in her ear like wildfire in a dry grass. Together, they became the black-hearted power couple of Westeros, two dragons breathing fire not just at their enemies, but the very idea of mercy. And this brings us to one of the most underrated psychological aspects of the show, how grief turns idealism into tyranny. Rhaenyra didn't wake up one morning and decide to be cruel. She was made cruel, forged by betrayal, hammered by loss. That's the essence of her transformation, not madness, but mourning twisted into fury. Every time she mounted Syrax after that, she wasn't riding for glory, she was riding for revenge. Every decision, from sending her sons as envoys to ordering her enemies' deaths, came from the same place. The whole Visenya's death left in her heart. And speaking of dragons, let's talk symbolism for a second. In Targaryen lore, dragons are born of fire and blood. Rhaenyra's daughter never lived, but her death birthed something far more terrifying, a mother whose vengeance would ignite the realm. That's why her supporters began calling her the Black Queen. It wasn't just about the color of her banners. It was about her soul, darkened, hardened, consumed by loss. Even the dragons seemed to reflect her rage. When demons sang to Vermithor, when Caraxes roared into battle, it wasn't just war. It was grief made flesh. But here's the tragedy of all this. Vengeance doesn't heal wounds, it multiplies them. Rhaenyra's war consumed not just her enemies, but her own house. Sons died, dragons fell, the small folk starved, and in the end, her vengeance led her straight to her own doom. When she was captured and fed to Aegon's dragon, Sunfire, her final scream wasn't. So next time you watch House of the Dragon and see Rhaenyra standing tall, fire flickering in her eyes, remember this. That isn't ambition you are seeing. It's heartbreak with wings. Thank you for watching Westeros Throne. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the tragedy that forged the Black Queen, make sure to subscribe and join us next time, where fire meets prophecy and no one leaves unburned.